Today, the topic is mindset on the mound, some processes that we can go through to really help you guys kind of hone in on what you've been working on. And, because it's one thing to have a whole off season with a lot of guys are working on their skill. Sometimes mindset isn't at the forefront, but then you get into the game and you go, oh, wow, this is more than just my mechanics. This is more than just doing what my coach says. There's a lot of stuff going on.
You turn on the scoreboard and things change, right?
Yep, turn on the scoreboard and things change. And so today we're going to talk about a few different things, some experiences between Coach Wolfworth and I, talk about some things that can really help. Use them if you would like, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's about how to take care of yourself on the mound mentally and emotionally as all the bullets are flying, right? Because you're going to need some lifelines, and if you can create those habits, you can make it through. Because believe me, no one gets through those stuff unscathed, right? So we think this is going to be smooth sailing. Yeah, well, as my father used to say, the other team practices too.
Yeah,
so it's going to be, right? There's going to be some rough patches as we go through. And it's the old basketball analogy. The other team is going to make a run. So are you prepared to stop that run a little bit sooner and then be able to rebound from that? And that's really what we're talking about.
With a run of your own, yeah. Absolutely. So just to kick it off, there's I wanted to give you a little bit background story and, of course, give credit to who gave me most of these ideas. I would say a large, maybe 75% of what I'll be talking about today. And his name is Dr. Drew Brannon. Drew Brannon is a sports psychologist in Greenville, South Carolina, or he was when I was there back in 2012. I was playing summer ball in Clemson, South Carolina, Greenville just down the road, maybe 45 minutes. You flew into Greenville this year, didn't you?
I did. Beautiful city.
Yeah, not bad. His kind of historic little southern Dixie South town. Great place. But the reason I went to see Dr. Brandon was because after a junior year that didn't go so well in college, I had a summer ball year, a summer ball season for the Clemson Chaos was our name, Clemson Chaos. Carolina, and I didn't have a great junior spring, so I thought, okay, let's go into the summer and let's kick ass.
Let's right the ship, yeah.
Yeah, let's dominate this summer, put my name back in the mix, that sort of thing for pro ball, or just have some confidence going into my senior year. So I get to Clemson, get the uniform. We got our apartment. We're having a great time. We had I think we were there 5 days before the season started. So we have this little mini preseason where I pitched pretty good in the inter-squad game that I threw in. Everyone's meeting each other. We're having a great time.
So it's looking up.
It's looking up. I mean, I'm about ready to have the best summer of my life, right? And so I was our going in. I was our number 2 starter going into it started on a Friday. So I was a Saturday guy. And I went out and absolutely crapped the bed my first Saturday. I remember that start was in Asheville, North Carolina, and we go up. It's a little mountain town, beautiful, beautiful little park, and I'm having a great time. I'm warming up, and then kind of the nerves set in. I'm like, oh, wow, everyone's expecting a lot out of me. I'm like the leader, off the field, and here it comes, right? And I mean, I literally, Ron, I put up, I think, 6 or 7 runs in 2 innings of work. Most were due to lack of command, and that's where a lot of people go, oh my gosh, my mechanics or whatever. I well knew that it wasn't anything going on with what I was doing delivery-wise or what I was doing. It was no different.
It wasn't physical is what you're saying.
To me, it wasn't physical, right? And so I was like, oh, man.
It was a physical manifestation, but it wasn't created primarily physical.
Yeah, it came from something else. And I think what started was I was a Division II guy, Ron, and all of a sudden I see this Asheville team, and they've got a guy from, UNC Wilmington, UNC Asheville, Coastal Carolina. You've got these Carolina teams, North Carolina, all these guys, and I'm looking at this lineup we're playing, I'm like, oh.
Everyone did Division I.
Yeah, I mean, half of it was.
I don't belong here, right?
Almost
do I belong here? That's
am I gonna do okay here?
Right, right.
And so then that happened. I came out, and then the next week, really the same type of thing. I think I gave up 3 or 4 runs, but it was like a first inning thing, and I got out of there pretty quick. So my first 2 outings were atrocious. I think I had given up 7 or 9 earned runs in 4 innings pitched, something like that. And of course the ERA is huge. And so I'm freaking out, and a couple people that are still, my biggest supporters, my family, my parents, and I just told them what had happened. They had watched one on the thing, and they knew what was going on, of course. And so my mom did some research, and she found Dr. Drew Brannon in Greenville, South Carolina. She set up the appointment for me. It was like $260 for the hour. It was an hour-long consultation. I think I gave my parents' credit card to him for like close to $300. But it was it was definitely the biggest hour of the summer. What happened after that was my season completely turned around because I actually had something going in. He giggled at me 3 or 4 times as he kind of asked like about what I do and what are the things and what do I think about. He kind of laughed and he said right off the bat, dude, you suffer from really bad preparation in your mind and you suffer from bad performance anxiety and you're worried about failing all the time. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So after that, we came up with a few ideas. And that was
probably caused a little bit by the junior year, right?
Yeah.
Because, it just kind of added to, and it just kept getting that attitude and attitude. And a lot of people listening have got that. They start out okay, and then it starts out just small, and then pretty soon it just builds, and pretty soon you don't think you can tie your shoe or get a fork in your mouth, right? You really doubt about everything.
Right. And so the very first thing we had to come up with, Ron, and this goes so close, and it is really exactly like what we talk about. And he talked about creating a pregame process and this was the first time I ever heard it, and this was a year before I came to the ranch. He asked me, he said, what do you do pregame? You're a starter, what do you do? And I was like, I kind of beat around the bush. And he said, dude, you do something different every freaking time. And I was like, wow, yeah, I guess. He goes, why would you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, you need
a routine,
the exact same routine so that your body and your emotional state is prepared for what you're about to do. Because he goes, every time you step on the mound, your body and your mind is now surprised you're in this because you're doing something different.
And now we're in panic mode.
Yes, and he goes, pick out, and he kind of got, surface, and he goes, pick out, get your favorite Gatorade, have it set up, be that guy where no one messes with your process. Don't let anyone veer you off your process. This is you, right? You're the starting pitcher. No one should veer you off your process. So he said, come up with that. So we sat for the first 10, 15 minutes, was just coming up with my preparation, my warm-up. And of course, most of the ranch guys know how important that is, the arm care thing and the preparation. And then he talked a little bit about bullpen.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there because not only is that physical, but that's also mental and emotional, meaning that when you're going through the process, when you're going through your routine, now you've kept your emotions in check because the body's been here before. The brain has been here before, right? And there's an old saying that, I don't know if you read the Kershaw article that I sent you, but it's the same thing. You don't get in his way game time. They say he's the best teammate the other 6 days of the week, but when he's pitching, you don't mess with him. You don't talk to him. You don't even get in his way.
Right.
Because no one messes with his routine, right? Because he knows what is it going to take for him to be at his best. And so that doesn't mean it's a guarantee of success. It just means it guarantees you your best chance. And if you're doing something different every day, man, your anxiety is going to be pretty intense.
One thing I've always admired you about, just from your stories, and sometimes when we deal with certain guys here, and you kind of say, well, you've got the strong mentality, and I don't know if you ever had it naturally, you worked on it when you were young, but just as a competitor, and a guy who, we talk about the foxhole guy and that sort of thing. I wonder if you've ever thought of this, or you ever did this, because as we talk about it here, I remember the preparation. So then, what we talked about next was not just when we got to the field and what I did there. He asked about the days leading.
Right.
And I said, okay, well, and he's like, I'm not so much worried about what you do physically, your process there, because it's too far away. That's what he said. And he wasn't a training guy. He's a mind guy, right? And I go, okay. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he goes, well, what do you think about the day before? And I'm like, well, the night before, I like to get the meal that I like, or I like to, get to bed early. I like to watch a movie, right? And I kept telling him things where he goes, well, do you like to talk about your night? And I'm like, I don't really like to talk about what's coming. And he's like, do you like to think? No. I told him, I avoid thinking about my next outing. Hey, I'll get there when I get there. Let's not get in my own head. That was my thought. I was like, I don't want to think too much about it. And he goes, that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. He goes, you need to ease your way into this thing So again, you're not exploded by your adrenaline, your emotions, your all this. He goes, you need to sit down and prepare yourself for the next day. Because what I would do is I would avoid talking about it, whether it was a teammate or my parents. Hey, are you ready to pitch this big game?
Yeah.
I'd go, whoa.
Right.
I don't want to freaking talk about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you ever experienced things like that.
Sure.
But he was like, dude, you should welcome those things and just because you want to practice the battles in your mind before you actually get there.
Well, it's really smart because I may have dealt with that a little bit, but Garrett's dealing with that right now. Same thing, he doesn't want to talk about. But there's a couple things, right? Bill Lee, the old Spaceman Lee, the pitcher for the Red Sox, used to suffer from anxiety before the game, and he learned to pitch the game several times in the days leading up. And so he was like, so he would be like, let's say he was facing the Astros, he would go, "Hello, Jose, good to see you again," right? And here's Jose Altuve, and right, and it's not like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to push Jose off of my head. He's like, "Hey, hello, Jose, it's good to see you again. Here it goes.
Just saw
I got something just for you," right?
Yeah.
And that's a way different feeling than, oh no, here comes the reigning MVP of the National League, and man, I gotta, or the American League, and I gotta spot up here. And so Bill Lee said he went to a sports psychiatrist, and the sports psychiatrist goes, "Okay, what is the worst thing that can happen?" And so Bill Lee would say whatever, and he goes, "No, that's not the worst thing. What's worse?" And so for about 20 minutes this went on. No, that's not the worst thing. And so he went all the way through the worst thing. And then he goes, "Okay, so let's say," and after 20 minutes, Bill Lee goes, "Yep, that's it. That would be the worst thing." So he goes, "Okay, so what happens the day after that?" And Bill Lee goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Okay, you pitched and this happens. What happened on the next day?" And Bill Lee goes, "Nothing. I get back up and he goes, "You survived it, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "So then what's the chances of that happening?" And he goes, "Almost zero, very, very slim." And he goes, "If you can handle that, then don't worry about this other stuff. Start to prepare for it. Don't put it off. Don't not think about it. Prepare for it, right? And know that you, at the end, you know you can handle the worst case scenario, right?" So actually, that's what the Navy SEALs do. That's what a lot of high-performing people do. They go to the worst case scenario, and they go, "Look, if the worst case scenario is that I die on this thing, then I don't want to do that, right? I can't. Okay, I'm going to do this. But if the worst case scenario I can survive it, then this is something that I can plan for." And go, so it's just, and he joked. One of his final thing is, in his mind, every night he would go, "Okay, in 6." Because he pitched in the Boston Red Sox, and the Boston Red Sox, as you know, the media for the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees is like, and they're all over. They know who you're dating. They know what restaurants you go to. They know, right? And so Bill Lee said the biggest help for him was, he's like, "Yeah, but if I don't throw well, this writer is going to say this, and this happens, and whatever." And so the sports psychologist goes, "All right, in 6 million years from today, the sun is going to grow cold, and the earth will be a frozen ball, and no one will care if you shut out the Yankees on Saturday," right? Yeah. And so Bill Lee laughed, but in that laugh there was truth, right? So we make it, our perception of what that is, we make it gigantic, right? And that's the problem. We make it, it's in our perception of it. We make it bigger than it is. We make it hurt harder, more than it is. We make it more embarrassing than it is. Deal with it as it is, and if you can run through it like your psychologist suggested, you prepare mentally through all those different actions as you go in. Embrace it. You're going to be able to handle it when things go a little sideways. But on the other hand, if you think, "Geez, I got to throw a no-hitter today," and the first inning, the first pitch, the guy hits a laser beam. From there on, it's unraveling, right? And so,
well, let's talk about that. The kind of taking it piece by piece in the process. I know we talk about it a lot, and I've heard it from other people too. But it's just being able to segment especially as a starting pitcher, right? I think for relievers, and there's probably plenty of relievers out there, they'll agree that, it's nice to know, hey, I got 1 inning and I got to go out and dominate, right? As a starter, you are kind of, you have to deal with, oh shoot, what's a quality starter? What's going to make my teammates and my coach happy? Oh, 6 innings? Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm here. I am
6 innings, 3 earned runs or less.
Here I am at inning number 1. Shoot, long way from being done.
Already gave up 3.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So one of the worst things that you can do as a pitcher who is starting is look at the big picture. You've got to be able to look at it in pieces and in segments and go out and hit and dominate each segment. So if you look at, this is just a traditional baseball scoreboard up here, innings 1 through 9. One of the things to do is just to bring it not only in your mind, but to actually look at it. It's physical. Bring it to the physical state. So one of the things that I like to do here is, as a starting pitcher, sitting in the dugout, if you've got a traditional scoreboard like this, and I understand there's not, maybe at some lower levels they're not like this, but certainly at high school maybe you should have this. Being able to look at this inning and erase all of this, right? So you're just focused here. I'm a starter. Before I go out, I'm focused here. What can I do to put a 0 right there?
Just circle that inning
right?
because you did that earlier, and I like that. That's all. The entire game is that.
This, right? So, boom, I gotta go here, right? And so then my only goal is to make sure whatever I can do to put a 0 there. Then the next inning, do the same thing.
And I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna add to this right now. Sandy Koufax has a famous quote. He said, the whole secret, people were asking about pitching, right? And he said, the secret is to get 3 before they get 1, right? To get 3 outs before they get 1. Not to focus, not to worry about who gets on leadoff hitter, not to worry about if there's a runner at second, nobody out. Until they touch the odd shape thing, it doesn't count.
Right.
And your job is to get 3 outs before one guy touches there. And so now if a run scores, 1 run, then your job is to get 3 outs before the second one scores, right?
Another one,
and if you just keep rebooting, right? And because you can't control, because as soon as that 1 run scored, there's nothing you can do about it anymore. It needs to be just flushed down the toilet or thrown off the thing, and now you're focused on getting 3. And how many times have you and I, take us out of the pitching realm, been defensive players or hitters, and we get bases loaded, nobody out, and we don't score a run? Happens all the time, right? And you and I are both Astros fans. God, we had bases loaded in the second, we got nothing. Or we got bases loaded, we only got 1. That changed the game around. Absolutely it does, right?
Yeah.
And so you play that game within a game right there, right? But I think that what Sandy Koufax said, get 3 before they get 1. And that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, I know you've said it with your teammates, but this happens. This is a good thing for people to remember. Bases loaded, 1 out, you're 1 pitch away from getting out of this. Ground ball, double play, you're out of it. Instead of, oh my gosh, look at the mess I'm in.
This is going to be so hard to get out of.
1 pitch away from getting out of this thing, right? And that's how you have to view it. You compartmentalize it. You pull it into there. And like you said, if you put enough of those up, you're in the 5th inning, and you've thrown a pretty good game.
Right.
And by the way, this one of the worst things that you can have is this a quality start crap, because what it does is it confuses people and starts to get you to look macro instead of micro, and because you can't control always the macro. You can control the micro all the time. It's in with you much better. You have a much better control of that. And Sandy Koufax says, what is a quality start? And here's what he says. I'm in the 9th inning, and we win. Right? He didn't say 1-0, I win 1-0. He just said, I'm on the bump in the 9th inning, and we win. That's a quality start. Now just think of the simplicity of that. He wants to be the pitcher of record. At the end of the game, he's still out there, and his team wins. That could be 4-3. That could be 6-5.
Right.
It could be 1-0, right? And we win. He didn't say, quality start is I only give up 1 earned run, but we got beat 2-1, and that's he never viewed it that way.
Right.
He viewed it as, I think success is, I'm going to be out there, I'm going to be still on the mound, and we win. Now, I think that is really what you're kind of talking about. It's just one piece at a time, one piece at a time.
Yep, one piece at a time. And let's say you get here, right? Okay, we're 0-0, and something awful happens. Okay, that's a joke, right? We put 3 there. Okay, double play isn't made. 2 guys get on. You got squeezed, and then a guy hits a bomb. Okay, so now it's 3. What most people would do is go, okay, crap. I need to have to get back to where I was. Look how good I was going. To get back to where I was,
I got to go down.
I got to go to here, and I got to be zeros all the way through. Because now it's not just 0, 0, 0. It is 0, right? And now you're compartmentalizing 3 innings at a time.
And you don't have control. You only have control of 1 at a time. Right. Or I mean, the opportunity even influence 1 at a time.
Right. And so now, okay, so 3 goes up. Who cares? Right. Now we're back to this, and then you go here, and then okay, perfect. We're back to this, and then you go here. Okay. Starting to getting close to whatever. One more time. I'm there. Shoot, that's a pretty darn good game.
You know, and I got to tell you a famous story that, as you know, I'm a big Greg Maddux fan, and growing up, I got the TBS, and we got to see the Atlanta Braves all the time. And so Greg Maddux, I grew up watching Greg Maddux and Glavine and Smoltz. And I don't mean growing up, I was a little older. I'm not that young. But anyhow, Greg Maddux was always a big one of my more favorite pitchers. Well, I was in San Diego one day doing a coach's thing, and Greg Maddux was at the tail end of his career, and he's pitching in San Diego. And I'm like, unbelievable. I get to go see my favorite pitcher, and because I got to watch Nolan Ryan throw when I was at Sam Houston State. We'd go down and watch Nolan Ryan. I got to watch Nolan Ryan multiple times when he was an Astro. So my 2 favorite pitchers of all time are Nolan Ryan and Greg Maddux. And so I get there, and I go in San Diego. I don't know if I've ever told you the story. In the very first inning, it was a single, an error, and then Klusko hits a bomb, and Greg Maddux is down 3-0 in the first inning. And I go, how unlucky am I? I'm going to watch Greg, and Greg's not going to make it through the 4th. And I spent some good money. I got all the way down, and now at that point it wasn't hard to get Padre tickets because they weren't very, but anyhow, I got great tickets, probably $150 for the game. And I'm like, I was already starting to feel bad for myself because I didn't think Maddux was going to last, right? 9th inning, complete game. He wins 4-3, 110 pitches. That was it. It was 3-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, win 4-3. There is no doubt Greg Maddux did exactly what you did because he was like, okay, next, what I have control over is this inning, 0. That's what I got. None, right? And then the next inning, okay, you're not getting any more, right? And you put that back, and the Braves scored 1 in the 3rd, and then they scored 1 in the 5th, and then they scored 1 in the 7th, then they scored 1 in the 8th, right? Right? And that's what happened. He kept those guys in, right? And he just kept making. And so they interviewed him after the game, and he goes, "I just kept making pitches." And I think that's exactly what the best do. Right?
And so you kind of before off camera, you kind of had used the hitting analogy you used off camera was awesome, and you can easily parallel that. But why don't you just talk about winning the one? The bat at bat,
right?
You were telling me about,
right? In case I talk to Garrett about this all the time, is that a lot of times, just like pitching, I want to throw a shutout today, so I'm thinking about 7 or 9 zeros in a row, and sometimes when we're hitting, we're thinking about going 3 for 5 or 4 for 5 and 5 for 5, right? And so that's I'm going to really have a good day, right? So if you think about it, if I said you have a good day, you'd go, yeah, I was 3 for 5. That's a good day, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when you go 0 for the first 3, right? It's impossible for you to have a good day the rest of the day based on just what I said. It's very unlikely that you now have a good day and you went 0 for 3 in the first 3, right? So here's what I say to Garrett, and we've been working on this, and he's been internalizing it. But I would say, and I actually, this is not mine. I heard this from Derek Jeter one time. I talked about it. He said, a major league player will win one at bat per game that they will really make a difference on. And what that means is, here's how all the ways you can make a difference. You could lead off the inning with a double, and now you're in scoring position with nobody out. That's a big thing. In a tight ball game, that's a big thing. So an extra base hit with nobody on. Sometimes it's just getting on base against somebody that's really dominant, and you just lead off the inning by getting on base, right? That could be an important thing. Any RBI in a close ball game that you fly out and score the run, or you get a double and score the run, anything that really makes a difference in the ball. Because a lot of people, you're up 12-0 and I get a single.
Yeah.
Right. That's not an at bat that changes things. So Derek Jeter said, we want to change the game in one at bat.
Okay.
And so what we try to get on G is, you want to do that. Now, a lot of people are like, well, wouldn't that be a problem what happens if you get a big at bat? What happens if you hit a home run in your first at bat? Are you then done? No, then you reconfigure it and you go, I'm going to get one more good at bat for the rest of the game.
Right.
Right? And then if I get two, I'm going to get one more good one for the rest of the game. That's how you end up being 4 for 4 or 5 for 5, right? Because you can't go 5 for 5 at one time, right? You can't, if you're struggling, you can't get 5 hits in one at bat.
Right.
You get one.
Right.
And so I think in our mind we all try to catch up. It's kind of like gamblers, where a gambler gets in trouble. I'm going to win back all this in one, right? That's where they get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So what that means is, here's why this is such a good thing. In life, in a game, there's a lot of times you went 0 for 1, 0 for 2, 0 for 3, 0 for 4, and if you have the only way that you have your rule, I'm a good hitter if I'm hitting 300. Okay? A lot of people have that. Good hitters hit 300. I've heard it multiple times, and unfortunately a lot of times by coaches. Well, you know what? If you play in this level, if you're not hitting 300, you're not a very good hitter. How many times have you heard that, right? So you hear that so many times, and you just accept that, right? Or the same thing. I got an ERA of under 3. If you're a good pitcher, you go, well, I give up 300 runs in the first inning. I'd have to go extra innings to get that thing under 3.
Yeah.
Right? I'm in trouble.
Right.
So what you say is, that is a terrible way of looking at it. You want to make a difference in one at bat. So let's say you're 3 at bats. And I use this analogy for Garrett all the time. You went 4 at bats and you've struck out every time. That's a terrible day, right? But if your goal is only 1 at bat and you get the 5th at bat, and now you make a difference maker, you hit a ball in the gap and the run scores and you win the ball game, that is why so you focus on one. Just win 1 at bat big. Be a difference maker in 1 at bat. And if you do that, you're going to be much better off over the whole thing. So what you do is, in essence, you stay present, right? You're not in the back in the history like, man, I gave up 3 runs in the second. God, I can't believe that guy blew that ground ball, or I can't believe it got squeezed. It's ancient history, right? Man, I gotta make it through the 9th, or my ERA is going to be bad. That's way too far out in front. I need to stay in the present, and that's what I'm going to win 1 at bat, and then I'm going to win 1 at bat, and then I'm going to win 1. I'm going to win 1 inning. I'm going to put a 0 in 1 inning. It's this exact same mentality or thought process.
Yeah. So those are really, really good. I mean, and I think a lot of the guys too who are still hitters out there, which I think a lot of the high school guys especially are, use that for hitting. Win 1 good at bat.
And I got a story that you've heard before, but I want to tell it. It's about an All-American, and I think when everybody hears the story, it still gives me goosebumps when I tell it, even though I lived it. It gave me really goosebumps living it, but it's given me goosebumps multiple times since. When I was at my last college that I played for, our middle infielders were 2 of the best at turning a double play in all of That year we were NAIA, and I think it was the top infield in NAIA. We turned, I don't know, it seemed like 80 or 90 double plays that year. It was a lot, right? And they were really good. And so I'm pitching in a very crucial game. It was a whether we're going to go in the playoffs kind of game. It wasn't a minor game. It was a major game. And it wasn't like if we lost we were done type of game. Right. But it was
You're
an
in a good
important
spot,
game.
yeah.
It was an important game. And we're leading 3-2, and we have the number 3 and 4 hitter coming up. Runner at first base. We're up by 1 run. They bring me in to I was basically our setup or closer guy. I come in, and so I'm facing the number 3 hitter, and I get we have 1 run, 1 out, runner at first. We're up by 1, and it's the top of the 9th, and we're at home, and I get a ground ball right to my second baseman, who was an All-American. 97% of the time, that's a double play, and we're on the way out, and we're celebrating high-fiving. That ball goes underneath his glove into right field. The runner at first went to third. We now got first and third, 1 out, the cleanup hitter up. And so you get to see the dugout go, right? It was hit, yeah, and then, right? So it was, the guys are about ready to jump over the rail.
Yeah.
And about there, it goes, right? It was, you could just feel the air come out of us, like, right? So I'm there, and I'm trying to keep my composure, right? And I'm digging at the, pawing at the dirt, waiting for the ball to come in. And he had the ball, and he got the ball. He called for the ball. And so the right fielder throws in the ball, and he comes running into me, and I remember this to the day I die, and it'll give me some chills. He said, "Hey, Ronnie, that's on me. That is on me." He goes, and he's looking at me, and he goes, "You got to stay with me here. We're going to be okay. We'll get this back." No, I'm sorry. It was first and third, and the run scored and tied the ball game up. I'm sorry. First and third, we were up by 1. Run scored. That guy went to third. Now it's tie ball game. Now we're first and third. Okay, so it's tie ball game. He goes, "Hey, we'll get that back. We'll get that back. Stay with me here. We're going to get through this." That's my bad. So I go back, and I'm just like, okay, easy for you to say, right?
Yeah.
Right. But he was a good leader and a good person, and I appreciated the sentiment, right? He goes back to second base. 2 pitches later, I kind of hang a slider, and the cleanup hitter's left-handed, and he crushes one between first and second, and our second baseman full out dives, leaves vertical, snags the ball, snow cone, gets up to his knees, doubles the guy off first base. We're out of the inning. Well, you know baseball, who's leading off the next inning? The second baseman, right? Happens all the time. I think that's why baseball is God's favorite sport, right? That's how that works. He leads off the 9th inning. First pitch, fastball, see ya, walk off. Now, here's why this is big. The average human being, a guy that really prides himself in defense, knows that ground ball he got was a double play ball, and he might have just cost his team the win, and just might have cost his team the postseason. It's possible. Yet, because that's all true, but he didn't think about that. You know what he thought about? Me. Making sure that I stayed, that I was focused, right? Now, you tell me, if he drops his head just a little bit, does he make that play the very next? No way, right? There's no way. He's going to be a little short of it, right? Because he's, right? Then, does he get up and hit the bomb? No. So, he stayed present.
Right.
He flushed the air. But it was even better than flushing the air. He was more worried about me right?
Yeah.
Stay with me.
That probably helps him, right?
Yeah, he was the quintessential element of leadership. You've heard us say it in the ranch all the time. Take care of the guy to your right and take care of the guy to your left.
Yeah.
Because if he does that to you,
Yeah.
the camaraderie is amazing, right?
Right.
And that's when good marriages are good. That's when good families are good. That's when your mom calls a psychiatrist in Greenville, Carolina, and make sure you have, right? That's taking care of the person to your right of you and taking care of the person to your left of you. That's leadership. And that present moment changed that game around. And that told me everything about what really the mental game is about. It's not about not making a mistake. Every player, whether it's Willie Mays, Ozzie Smith, whoever, Derek Jeter to Johnny Bench to, they're going to make mistakes. It's going to be ugly. They're going to make mistakes at the most inopportune time, right? They're going to. Michael Jordan missed 20, was given the last shot 22 times, and I mean, he made a lot of them, but 22 times he failed on the buzzer beater to lose the game. Right? The best fail, and fail at the most inopportune time. So we make this belief that the best don't fail. Just watch Bryce Harper. He strikes out. Watch Mike Trout. He strikes out. Watch somebody it happens all the time. It's not about that. It's about what you do. It's about the process, the way you process success and failure. You're not trying to not make a mistake. You're trying to stay present. You're trying to do the most you can with what you have at that moment. That's what winning is, right? Derek Jeter, I think everybody would agree. Derek Jeter wasn't the most talented shortstop, wasn't the best, almost at anything. His arm wasn't the best, but there was some character quality about him that he just won. And I think you would say the same thing about Altuve. I think you would say that about really, really good players. They find a way to make everybody around them better because it isn't just about them, and it is about process. It's about staying present as you go forward, right?
For sure. Yeah, so, using all that, being that sort of guy who's present, making the guy next to you better, because in the end of the day, right, being the pitcher, a lot of times you get the ball every single pitch. Obviously, you're delivering the pitch, you're dictating a lot of what goes on, but it's not all about it. It's not all about you. It's he makes a mistake, you got him. It's you make a mistake, I'm going to stay with you, so that sort of thing. So
a side note on this, right? I'm going to say this to everybody listening. You know how I know when you have a good culture in baseball? Let me give you an example. Ground ball to the shortstop. I watched this for high school. I'm, as you know, I'm a keen observer of human behavior, especially in a baseball field. Ground ball to shortstop. He throws the ball away at first base, safe. And let's say he throws it in the dirt and the ball gets by safe. All right. Here is a bad culture. The shortstop says, "Could you not have picked that up? Really? I mean, scoop it." The first baseman goes, "Can you not get it all the way here?" Right? That's a bad culture. That's a culture that's never going to win. Here's what a good culture is. The shortstop goes, that's on me. I'll get you. And the first baseman immediately goes, no. You throw it anywhere close. That's on me. I will pick that up. That wins, right?
Sure.
Same thing. Ball gets away. But when you take total responsibility, when you take extreme ownership of these things change, right? We make each other better, right? And the best catcher I ever threw to said to me, we were playing in a game, very big conference game. It was against Emporia State when I was at Kearney State, and a very good hitter. And he came, it was bases loaded, and I was a closer at Kearney State. He comes out and he goes, "Ronnie, you throw the very best very best slider you got, and I got it. It's in the dirt. I got it. Don't fear it. You throw that thing. You bury it. I got it. It's never going to get by. And of course, I didn't bury it, but man, I felt completely comfortable when I threw it. And it's wow. But if I'm like, oh man, I hope that didn't get away, right?
Then you hang it, yeah.
And then so you got catchers going, you know what? I got beat up by you guys today, right? And then you got pitchers like, you know what? You know, you got all that equipment back there. You're supposed to block it. Now you got a problem, right? You want your pitcher to go, look, man, I'm never going to spike a fastball on you. That's on me. I'm better than that. And then you want your catcher to go, look, you give me your nasty stuff. We'll get this out, right? So it's that dynamic. But when you become the victim, when you don't take ownership, when you don't stay in the present, that's when you get in trouble. And so when that went bad for my second baseman in college, he didn't go, I hate the ground balls like that on this turf. I hate playing on Sunday afternoons when this dirt get chewed up. I hate playing and the glare was off and it was hot and I hate and and you know.
Yeah.
It took a bad hop.
Yeah.
That never wins. What wins is, look, that didn't go well. I reboot it. I flush the bad thing. I take ownership of what that happens, and I'm present for the next thing. And I'm more worried about the guys around me because I got this. I'm okay, right? I'm okay. And that goes back to your thing. If you can start thinking about your outing this Saturday on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you start to put yourself in a position, no matter what happens, I'm okay. That's what's better, instead of trying to avoid thinking about it. And then hoping, beyond all hope, that it works out fine. Because it rarely does. Baseball will happen. Problems will happen. That's the reason most businesses fail. 80% of all startup businesses fail because they have these pie-in-the-sky projections, and it never works out that way, right? And then they're disappointed when that happens. And so it's a life skill that we're trying to teach these guys. Right?
Yeah, it is. And so the last thing that I want to leave you guys with is kind of so we've got the innings, right? And then we've got hitter by hitter because, because even within each inning, it goes even a step further, right? And so one thing that always helped me, just to bring it back down to earth, right? Instead of, oh, here comes the three-hole hitter, to make it like a me versus you. And one thing I always like to do was just look the guy in the eye, right? Look at him in the eyes, and just look at him in the face. Because sometimes, when it's the best hitter, or you got all these things, and you think, oh my gosh, and I remember always just, okay, insert next hitter, right? And so all of a sudden it was you versus an entire lineup, or you versus an entire inning. Oh crap, I got to get out 3, 4, 5, whatever. If you can watch them as they approach the plate, a lot of times you can find things to feed off of. You always got to find things to help fuel your fire, right? If it's always just, hey, I got nothing out here, it's just me, you got to be able to find things to feed off of, whether it's fear, or the other guy has fear, or the other guy is not so sure, or he's, right? A lot of times as he comes up, you can find things in his face that are really telling for you. Ever since I started doing that, it was very rare to have a guy come up and, man, he looked mean, and to dominate my emotions. It just didn't happen. You can always find, some guessing in him, and you can find some uncertainty and that sort of thing.
Well, you made him human. Right? Instead of trying to make him something. See, we always think of the famous Brent Strom comment, and I can't remember the pitcher. It'll come to me before the thing done. But Brent was in Yankee Stadium one day when he was with the Royals pitching coach, and one of his guys was down there in the bullpen, and he was looking good, right? It was like, and then the Yankee announcer came on and went, batting number 2 for your New York Yankees, number 2, Derek Jeter. Spiked it, right? And Brent's like, well, what happened was Derek Jeter now became Superman.
Right.
That's the guy you read about. He's going to be Hall of Fame. He's going to be, right? You're saying, look him in the eye. He's just like you and me.
Yeah.
He's really good, but
Right.
he struck out.
Yep.
He struck out looking. He's made an error.
Yep.
He's thrown to the wrong base. He has had a brain fart when he's base running.
Yeah.
I will promise you.
Yeah.
Right? And has this ever happened to you? You're at some place, and let's say Missouri Western, and you're at a dinner gathering or something, and they talk about a former one of your players, and they go, man,
Yeah.
wasn't
Oh,
he
yeah.
something? And you're like, he was okay,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
you know why you thought that? Because you saw him in all of his glory, but all of his,
Yeah. Yeah.
You've seen him strike out 4 times in a row. You've seen him have the ball go right between his legs. And so he becomes human to you, but to this other person that only read the box score and only read the
scouting
clippings,
report.
the scouting
Yeah.
report of the clippings, oh my gosh, I mean,
Yeah.
he was really
Yeah.
something, right? And you're like, no, he's not. No, really, trust me.
Yeah.
Right? He had this whole, matter of fact, you might go, yeah, you're all right, but a backdoor slider eats him alive, right?
Right.
Something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right? And that's true.
Right.
That's true for everybody. And what Bill Belichick with the Patriots always says, don't believe the hype.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is. Don't believe the hype, right? Look at it. Understand they're good, but look them in the eye, and all of them have weaknesses.
Yeah.
And and so that's your deal, right? I really like that. You want to do your little PCC as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think that's really good. You had that in your hat, right?
Yep. So, again, to make something physical and to bring you back, because you always want to be able to return, right? If crap's hitting the fan, or even if not, every time you're returning back. So whether it's pitch by pitch, not pitch by pitch, but hitter by hitter,
Right,
is returning.
right.
And so in my hat, what I wrote was PCC, and what that stood for was process, contact, and compete.
Let's go through all these.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And so as I would look at it, I would go, okay, process. All right, next pitch. So this was pitch by pitch. Before each hitter, I would look and I would go, okay, don't look at this even as a whole at bat. Look at this as a pitch by pitch.
Execute this pitch.
Execute this pitch. You do that enough times, you're going to be good. Do what your catcher wants. So I was lucky enough to have some good catchers in college, like you, and in that same summer in Carolina, same thing. The guy was on it, man, and he was. I compare it as most. He wasn't nowhere near as big as Garrett, but I've thrown a couple sides to Garrett, and he would just get big, and he would. That glove was massive. It was like a freaking pizza pie plate.
Yeah.
I felt like I could never miss that thing, right? And so what I always told myself was pitch by pitch, give it to him, right? I always said that to myself too. Process it and give it to him. That's what he wants. Freaking give it to him, right?
Execute it.
Execute it. So process. The second one is contact, and that stands for contact of the barrel.
Force it.
Force contact of this hitter. You want this hitter to
Dare them to hit it.
Yes, you want them to hit it, right? All too often, and I was guilty of it, was dancing in the first couple pitches.
Try to avoid the barrel. Right?
Avoid the barrel,
Scared of the barrel. Giving them way too much credit.
Scared of the barrel. And so pitch by pitch, and it was contact. I wanted contact in the first 2 pitches. And beyond that, first pitch. How great would it be? You hear about those horrible offensive innings of 3 pitch, 3 out, right? That's like the worst thing that could possibly happen, right? Get contact in your first pitch. Doesn't happen, get contact in your second pitch. If everything went really, really well, you may be 0-2. And now we're talking strikeout.
There's no doubt. And so the secret is this, right? The secret is this, is that, and I like to make this analogy for people. They did a little research on, as you know, in the All-Star game, before the All-Star game, they have the home run derby. And everybody brings their own guy and they throw, right? And they did some research. The sabermetric people are just absolutely nuts. And they did some things. Do you know what percent, and count the home runs and they count the line drives and all that. What do you think a major league, all the whole All-Star guys come in trying to home run derby. What do you think they hit during home run derby? They counted all the ones that would have been outs, all the ones that would be hit. What do you think? All of them hit in, I think it's 2015. All the home run derby participants, what would their batting average be collectively at batting practice.
You're asking me to guess?
Yeah.
700?
Pretty good. 659. Right? Now think about it.
And 659 is basically 2 for 3, right?
Right. 666 is 2 for 3.
Yeah.
Now,
So we're talking 2
that means when the guy is trying to let them hit a home run,
Yeah.
they get themselves out 1 out of every 3 times.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Right?
Yeah.
When you're trying to let them hit it
65 miles an hour down the middle.
out of the Yellowstone National Park,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to change anything. You want it to be like grooved.
Yeah.
They hit 656 or 659. So and if you look about it, you know I'm right because how many times do they pop it up? How many times, right? And and so that should give you great thought process, because if the best hitters in the world hits, let's say 700, just round it up, 700 against a guy that is trying to let them hit it, that's 300 that you get for free against the best hitters that have ever walked on the planet.
Yeah.
You start out with $300 in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And all you got to do is figure out how to get the other 400.
Yeah.
Right?
And then bring it to you, and you go, okay, well, I'm definitely not. I'm probably not even facing the best guys in the league, let alone in my league, and let alone how far away are they? So if you groove them, that average is now going to be less, maybe closer to 500.
No question.
At least, right? So closer to 500, and that's right. And so now you actually add your sequence, and you add what they're thinking about, and you add all the stuff they're not sure, yes, no, if so, where, that sort of. So yeah, so look for contact, right? That was fearing the barrel. It never works. Has it ever worked?
No.
Oh gosh, I don't hope I get hit. Oh sweet, I struck out the side. No, right? You fear the barrel, bad things will happen. Major league level, your level, whatever it is.
But you see that all the time with Barry Bonds too. That when the year that he hit so well, everybody was so worried about getting the barrel. He walked 1 trillion times, and then they ended up hanging pitches that otherwise he got cripples that other people wouldn't, because everybody was so afraid of how he hit, right? On the other hand, you get the number 9 hitter out there, and they're just like, right? And that so fear is really big, and that's right. So contact is a wonderful thing. You dare them to contact. Go ahead, I dare you. Swing at it, right? And you should say that, because the best that you're going to get, unless your last name is Judge and Correa and Trout, is 500. That's the best you got. That's the best, right? And I don't even think that's going to happen, because I'm not trying to serve it up. I'm going to make a pitch.
Well, which one is more common? You watch a lot of college baseball. Which one is more common? 4 straight base hits for 2 runs, or 2 base hits and 2 walks for 2 runs?
Or 3 hits and a home run. Or 3 walks and a home run.
Yeah.
That's way more commmen, right? So
we're not talking they're hitting, 3 out of 4 to score their runs. What they're doing when they have big innings, what they're doing is they get a hit, and then they walk because they don't want to get another hit, and then they're so.
if you really do the math on that, and there's some sabermetrics that the only way that you actually lose ball games. I heard a sabermetrics guy talk about this last year in the playoffs. The only way, if you had a 3-run lead or more, the only way you get beat is that you have to have walks or errors in that mix. It is almost impossible for major league guys to string enough hits together to beat you with a 3-run lead with, I don't know, 6 outs left. The guy come up with some stat, you know how they are.
There you go.
But basically, he had to have a walk in there, and you have to have an error, one or the other, right? Because you just can't. Like
you just can't.
do it, right?
Yep. And so go after it then. There you go. Go after it. Go after that contact, and do it very, very early. If you do it early, that's how you get ahead in counts. If you're avoiding barrel, if you're worried about avoiding barrel and you're nitpicking, you're going to fall behind more often than you're going to.
You're so true, Ollie. I would say this. I want to know where your first 2 pitches are. I don't even care what the rest of the at bat is. If you're really a high % of strikes in the first 2 pitches, we're good.
Yeah.
I don't even, what are the people batting against you when you're 3-2? I care what % of strikes are you throwing in your first 2 pitches, right? And I want it above 75%. And if you can do that, you're going to be successful. Period.
And then the last one was just reminding me to compete, and it was just trying to bring back the competitive vibe of that. And again, it was kind of like this, but it was just you versus him. It's not you versus the three guys behind him. It's not you versus, what that says is compete. So I would always look at my hat. Every batter, out, base hit, I'm getting the ball back. I would take my hat off, wipe the sweat. I'd look at it, PCC, and I actually wrote it out. PCC big, and then process, contact, compete. I'd go process, okay, next pitch, let's go 0-1 on this guy, or let's put him in play. 0-1 or put him in play, pitch by pitch, and then screw this guy, let's compete with him. You know,
right.
Me versus him. Bring it back to an individual game at
right.
the end. Bring it back to, you're a tennis player. You see people change when it's just mono, E-mono.
Right,
when it's mono, E9, E9 innings, all of a sudden it
feels overwhelming. Yeah,
it's overwhelming.
absolutely.
And so this is really good. Use this. Make up your own acronym. Just use it, right? Process, contact, compete. Figure out what that means for you. Look the dude in the eyes. Bring him back to reality. He's not Superman. Feed off of what you see in him and in his face. And then split it up inning by inning. Look at the scoreboard. Tell yourself, I'm putting a 0 there. That's done. I'm putting a 0 there. Don't look at this thing as a whole, because you're going to get in some major trouble if you try to do that. Be the dude that's looking next to you, helping the guy on your left, helping the guy on your right. You own it. Complete ownership, total ownership. And I think you'll be good. So hopefully there's some things in that discussion today that'll really help these guys. But you can turn the ship around, right? You can do it. So whether it started great, keep it going. Whether it started not as much as you'd like, turn this thing around and let's go get after it, guys. So anything else?
No, just
good.
Control what you can control, and stay in the present moment. And one of the best ones is the present moment is a present, right?
Sure.
The past is an ancient history. The future is a promissory note. Your present given to you by the Lord is the present moment.
Yep.
Make it count.
Perfect.